Hello everyone, this is James Hills with Print Audit. I'm going to let Jordan Dara from PrintReleaf start this off. So Jordan, if you're ready, please.
Sure, thanks James. This is Jordan with PrintReleaf. I just want to welcome everybody to today's webinar hosted by Print Audit and PrintReleaf.
Jordan, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Hi Jordan, I can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, and it looks like
Okay,
others can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, we'll reset. So hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar hosted by Print Audit and PrintReleaf. My name is Jordan Dara, I'm the CEO of PrintReleaf. First, I'd like to start out by thanking everyone for joining us. We've got a really good turnout and we're excited to be meeting with you today. Print Audit and PrintReleaf have partnered in organizing today's webinar because about 2 weeks ago, together we announced that we've integrated our software systems to automate PrintReleaf for print audit dealers and their customers. So with that in mind, we're joined by our friends at Print Audit to discuss not only the integration and how it works, but also an entire set of ideas and features that are focused on how dealers can layer in effective and profitable sustainability solutions into their MPS offering while simultaneously adding more value for their customers. For the webinar, we've budgeted about an hour, and we do have a lot of content to share, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into the presentation. And I just want to remind everybody that they are muted, and therefore, if you have questions, please enter them into the questions box or the questions section on the control panel for GoToWebinar. With that said, I'll turn it over to James Hills with Print Audit and let you take it from here.
Beg your pardon, the wonders of a mute button. I will get it eventually. What we're going to do is we're going to jump right in, and my name is James Hills. I'm the VP of Sales here at Print Audit. And just as some housekeeping things, we're going to go through quickly the agenda. We've done the introduction already. What I'm going to be taking you through is a little bit about Print Audit as it pertains to seat-based billing or cost per seat, however you term it. Then we'll get into a little bit of math behind that. Then we're going to pass the webinar over to Jordan, and he's going to take you through a PrintReleaf demo and overview, and then a little bit on the sales and marketing, and then we'll end off with 5 minutes or so of question and answer. So, despite warnings over the last decade and more, of course, print is still an essential part of doing business, and thank God, right? However, what we're seeing is that the appetite from the end users to reduce print costs and control its use and minimize its impact on the environment, that just continues to grow. But it shouldn't be enough to simply print less. There's a responsibility that we all have to reduce that environmental impact by replacing what we use. Now, as Jordan alluded to, he's going to show you how you can do that. But what I'm going to talk to you about is that printing less part of it, but doing it in a way that takes the sting out of the tail, which is what we'll get to. Now, many of you already, there's a lot of our premium members on the line here, and they already know that by using the capabilities of the tools included in Print Audit's Premier program, that you can impact the print behavior of employees and really help reduce the volume that they print. But for those of you who don't know, we'll go through it just quickly. Oh, I'm just told that we cannot see my screen here. I'm going to, Angie, can you confirm whether or not you can see my screen now, please? Excellent, so we can see my screen. Sorry. Technical difficulties, beg your pardon. So yeah, the Print Audit Premier program is one that is designed really to put all of the profit margin of placing software into our dealers' hands and our members' hands. Now, the program itself is it's a subscription program. So what it is $2,500 a month. And for that, you get unlimited use of all of the software that we have. Now that includes things like our Print Audit 6, which is our, that's the main print management software that we have. It includes analysis capabilities. It also includes rules-based printing, so being able to essentially put rules in place to affect print behavior in an environment. And it also includes the recovery functionality. Recovery functionality is that there's lots of different industries that can charge back for printing, such as lawyers, architects, engineers, realtors. So when the user hits print, they get a little pop-up which asks them to enter a valid piece of information. All of that capability is available in there. We also have our Facilities Manager program. Now, for those of you who are unaware of that, that is our device monitoring program. Essentially, you're installing a small agent in a customer's environment. It scans the environment, brings back information about the devices, such as the meter reads, the toner levels, device status, supplies levels, all of that sort of stuff. Competitive products, there are many. We are without question, once you try us, the absolute best on the market. There's also assessment capabilities. So the assessment capabilities are really the underpinning of any strategy that you're going to be putting forward to customers, such as what devices that need replacing, behavior that you want to change, service contracts and things like that. It all depends on having good data to rely upon. So we're collecting 35 pieces of information about every single print job going on in an environment and giving you tools to extract intelligence out of that. There's a rapid assessment keys. You may have seen these, the little USB key that you plug into any networked computer, and it'll take a quick snapshot of the environment and bring you back within 30 seconds. A good idea, you'll know more than your customer will within 30 seconds of that, of plugging that in. There's also our Print Audit Secure. This is the secure release and follow me print capability. It's a well-established methodology for helping customers reduce the cost and improve the security of printing in their environments. There's also our Insight dashboard. This is our business intelligence dashboard. This is the one that really, this is where all the sizzle comes from, because it's all very well, putting a ton of information in front of your customer to try and prove the value that you're going to bring. But data is just that. Until you have a way to present this information in a way that is going to be easily digestible and understandable and impactful to the customer, there's little value in it. So, and I will briefly, if we've got time, show you that. And then there's all the embedded capabilities that we have for all of the major manufacturers out there. We have an embedded capability so that you can control the use of the device at the panel. So we have Sharp, Ricoh, HP, Xerox, Konica, we're releasing Konica Minolta very shortly, Kyocera, many. So that's the Premier program and what's included in it. But I just want to circle back on the fact that for that $2,500, you're getting unlimited licensing. You should really think about that for a moment, because that really opens up a lot of possibilities and flexibility in how you're going to market with solutions in conjunction with your hardware and service. Because think of the expenses you have out there at the moment when it comes to placing software. there's a lot of competitors that we have in each of these spaces, but nobody comes to the table with all of this in one throat to choke. So when you think of this, because it's on a subscription and you have unlimited licensing, that means that your profit margins on this program just continue to grow and grow and grow as you place the software out in the marketplace, because your cost never differs, never moves up. So glad to go into details about that at another time if anybody is interested, because it's really quite, well, the math on it really works. Now, I mentioned this thing in the tail before, because, you know, all of those capabilities that I just talked about that are included in the Premier program, your customer wants those, right? Because all of those things are focused on reducing the number of pages printed and the use of paper, and that's bad news when your revenue is tied to how many pages they print, right? Which is the cost per page model. So before I show you how to make lemonade from those lemons, let's look at what we know about cost per page. First thing is that, and best case scenario, pages are flat, right? In most cases they're going down. So that means your revenue is going down, right? Margins are extremely tight on the page. I don't need to tell you that, right? When you're going in with a cost per page, it's an extremely comparable thing, right? Because when you're going in and you're trying to win these opportunities on a cost per page model, you're sometimes going to the third decimal point on your mill rate, right, for the cost per page. And so a penny a page versus 0.009, that's very comparable, right? And most importantly, there's a fundamental conflict of interest with cost per page. And that fundamental conflict of interest, of course, is that if you're tied to the page, you want to see the customer's volumes go up because you make more money. Now, of course, you don't take that position with the customer, as I understand, but that's typically what, that's what you want, right? They want to see those pages go down, thus your conflict of interest. Now, what we need to do then is we need to flip this reality on its head. And the way to do that is by unhooking yourself from the page and offering MPS on a per seat basis. So let's take a look at each of these points and see what happens when you do the things under a cost per seat. And just to clarify, so when we're talking about cost per seat, there's no great mystery to this. It's just a different way of calculating how much an environment is costing a customer to run and dividing that number with the number of employees that they have, right? So let's take a look at each of these. Let's look at decreasing pages. Well, under a cost per seat or a seat-based billing program, that turns into a positive, because every time they don't print something, you're making more profit, right? Tight margins. Well, and we can get into this, and I'm going to show you the math on this, but it's a phrase that I really like, which is where there's mystery, there is margin. And that's what we can bring to the table with the cost per seat. Comparable. Well, if you're at 009 for a page, and you're looking the customer in the eye and you're saying, well, I'm going to do, all you can eat for $25 per person or $15 per person, or what it ends up. That isn't very comparable at all, right? They don't have that base level to go, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to go with the cheaper guy. No, you're going to be rolling in so much value into this and in an uncomparable way. Now, but it doesn't stop there. Last September, we had the Top 100 Summit, which was an industry event in Park City, Utah, and from that came the Seat-Based Billing Council. There's a number of different industry leaders whose companies came together and said, yeah, this is a viable option. We need to look into it and figure out how does this all work, where are the risks and everything. So they came up with a number of additional benefits for this. number one, is that it is very predictable for your customer, right? They know that their cost is $25 or $20 per person, right? That's very budgetable, because at the moment, pages are going up and down, their bill changes each month, you've got to justify. Simple billing. Well, it's really easy billing for you, right? You know exactly what it's going to be, so and you don't have to do a whole bunch of calculations to try and figure out how much you should be billing. Really important part of it is the layering possibilities. There's so many different offerings out there, like in the IT space and especially in the software space, where they're charging based on the number of seats, right? Think of any software, it's based on that, right? So you can simply, if you're charging $20 for their MPS program per person, well, you can layer on other things such as software for another $3 here and some IT services for $15 here. Very easy, and this is an established methodology out there in the market right now. And no more monthly counting. Right? Yes, we've got the device monitoring programs that everybody is using now, but you know there can be some contentious issues with that, right? Because you're having to justify. Well, under a seat-based billing, what you're doing is you're saying, look, it's an all-you-can-eat, and we will just review and true up in our quarterly business reviews. So very easy to you know, get that bills out and make everybody happier. Now, if you're asking yourself, you know, well, why do you need print audit for this? Well, it's because there's risks involved that need mitigating. Because what if they're abusing the buffet, right? So if you've got an all-you-can-eat and all of a sudden you just throw it open to everybody, well, then you've got a bit of an issue, because your volumes could be going out of whack and you're not making any more money when that happens, right? Now, there's a couple of ways that you can go about this. Number one is going to be from a contractual perspective, right? So when you do a seat-based billing engagement, what you're going to be doing is a good analysis, which we spoke of before, about what's going on in that environment, so that you can come up with an accurate picture of what their costs are and what you can do for them. But there has got to be, from a contractual perspective, you can put tolerances in there, so a plus or minus 10% or whatever it needs to be. Now we have examples of contracts that you can use and everything like that. So there's definitely already a lot of the legwork has been done for you. Counting for seats, obviously this is the key to it all, right? Oh, beg your pardon, before I go on to that. So there's the contractual side of things, but there's also the using the software to control it, right? Because what you're talking about then is, well, how do I ensure that they're not going to abuse it? Well, that's where you can use the software that's included in Print Audit to start to educate people on what their print behavior is, show them better ways of doing things, and start to reduce how much they're using. The counting for the seats, well, that is the key to it all, right? You need to know how many seats that you should be billing for. The Print Audit software gives you that in one report. It's just a quick export each month, and you've got it. Again, there's contractual protection with that. So what if they hire a bunch of people, or you know, from their perspective, what if they lose a bunch of people, or lay off a bunch of people? So those things are all contractually controlled. And there's another risk is, okay, so what if you've got an environment with a mix of CPP and seat-based billing, right? So you've got an existing customer, or you've won a deal for a number of devices and they've got a bunch of existing stuff on CPP, right? What if all of those volumes start coming over to your devices, right? Because there's no additional cost to it. Again, these are all things that can be contractually controlled, right? And it can put in triggers in there for notification on such behavior. Now, let's take a look quickly at the math behind this, because this is really where the magic takes place. Got to keep an eye on time here. So we're going to go through this quickly. So let's just say you've got 100 employees, right? There's 20 devices. The monthly mono volume is 500 pages per employee, with an average mono cost of 1.5 cents a page. They're doing 150 pages of color with a cost of 6 cents, right? Your actual cost on that, providing that page, is, in this example, 1 cent and 4.5 cents. So that means that you're getting monthly revenue from the mono of 750 and monthly revenue from the color at 900. Gives you a total of 1650. So that means your cost per user is 1650, right, per person. Your profit margin on that is $4.75 per person. Now, this is where we get into, okay, well, how are we going to control and help that customer reduce the cost? Because they're never going to sign up with you unless you can help them reduce their costs, of course, right? So what we can do is, first thing is we're going to start putting some rules in place, and we're going to start to migrate some of the color volume that they're doing over to mono. So the typical example of that would be to put rules in place on a Outlook or Explorer printing, right? Email and webmail and things like that. One little blue hyperlink means it's a color page, right? So you can control that. So by doing that, we can predict around about a 30% migration from color to mono. And the waste reduction, that comes in a couple of areas. That can be done through the secure release. So, you know, people print, it gets held in a queue until they're ready to actually have that document come out of the device. Well, quite often what we see is that they don't actually print that off. And that you can see a tremendous reduction in the amount of volume that they're doing. You could also do this by duplexing, right, or reducing the amount of paper they're using. Now, when we're looking at that, what does that do to the revenue? It takes that, to speed up here, it takes it down to $10.86. That means that you're losing a gross profit margin of $1.53 per user. However, for those capabilities that you've just put in there, you can actually charge for them, right? So for the rules-based printing, you could charge, say, 50 cents per user per month. You can put accounting software in there. It's a secure release, and you can put the embedded software in there and charge on the monthly basis for that. Now, you'll notice here that that has an enormous profit margin comparative to the page, right? So you're going to actually increase that profit margin to $1.82. So what does this mean to the customer? So you're bringing their costs down by 22%, right? While at the same time, because your gross profit has actually gone up because of the software that you're putting in place, and you're then looking for ways that you can reduce their costs more and more. And so that you end up with an actual 5 or almost 6% increase in your profit margin. So you're billing out at $12.81 in this environment on a cost per seat, which means you're billing that customer $1,280. Now that's a very it's surprising math for some people, I know, but happy to go into details. Me and my team can go into details on this for you. Now let's go back into the presentation. Hang on a second. We've gone there. Now, the last thing that I'm going to quickly talk about and then hand it over to Jordan is the environmental impact. So, and Jordan's going to talk about this this calculation, so I'm not going to go into it, but there is a calculation to determine how much is the printing costing in trees. As you can see here, there's something that you can report on. What we typically see is that there's also an attrition value. So attrition savings is, when you think of it, is if people are aware that you can see what they're printing, they don't abuse, right? It's like speeding when you see a traffic cop on the side of the road on the highway, right? You don't do it. The other thing is that we can see, I touched on it already, the 20% impact on secure release and rules. Obviously that's a moving number and it all depends on the environment, but there is, in the vast majority of environments, all sorts of areas where you can help them to reduce their costs and win more profitable business from them. Now, what I'm going to do now is I am going to turn it over to Jordan. So thank you for your attention. And Jordan's going to blow you away with some environmental impact stuff too.
Great. Thank you, James. Go ahead and get my slideshow going. Again, thank you everybody for joining this morning. And just a segue from James's presentation on print audit. We closed out on the environmental metrics and the strategy of reducing consumption for a customer and their cost as well. And what's left is still a new baseline of consumption, and that's where PrintReleaf comes in. Our solution is there to reforest the paper they've consumed, effectively offset a customer's consumption on an ongoing basis. So I know we've got a number of people on the call who are familiar with our company, but for those who are not, I thought I'd give a brief introduction and then just jump into how the solution works, do a brief product demonstration, come back to some ideas on sales and marketing, and then we can close it out with some questions. So to kick it off, PrintReleaf was launched about 4 years ago as a company, but the first 2.5 years were spent in research and development, designing our whole system for certified reforestation of paper. We worked with a lot of experts in print, paper, and forestry to come up with the overall program. We then developed the concept into technology, effectively a web-based software platform, and then we take it to market to OEMs and dealers like yourself. And what really unlocks our market is the ability to integrate with products like Print Audit. You're already running on that solution as the backbone for your business, and by integrating with PrintReleaf with Print Audit, it just automates the solution for you, makes it very simple to opt in for your business and as well for your customers. So let's talk about how PrintReleaf works. It starts with a formula that's been around the industry for a number of decades. It's not something that we invented. We just adopted it and we layered into our software. And so it's a very simple formula on the surface at just over 8,000 sheets of letter equal 1 standard tree. It's a little bit more sophisticated underneath that. Through the integration with Print Audit, we do pay attention to paper size. So if a customer prints on tabloid versus letter, we can normalize to how many letter sheets that is. Likewise, we take into account overall duplexed images where that will show up as a count of 2 in the meter data. We back that out so that we get to the true physical calculation of a customer's overall paper consumption before equating it to trees. Likewise, on the forestry side of the equation, we take into account the survival rate and the species of the trees that we're planting. Therefore, we ensure that we plant the appropriate and accurate number of trees to ultimately reforest the customer's consumption and achieve 100% net survivability. The reporting is the first step. The second step is we make it actionable. So customers participate and play a role in deciding where to reforest their consumption back into the natural environment. And so what you see here is a screenshot taken from PrintReleaf. One of the cool features about it is we've integrated it with a third-party platform called Global Forest Watch. And this was a platform developed by the World Resources Institute in Washington, D.C. And it launched about the same time we did. So we got to know each other, realized that our missions were similar and aligned. What they do is they collect data through satellite imaging to illustrate where forest loss and forest gain is occurring around the world, and then they make it available to us. We bring the data into PrintReleaf, we surface it in the interface, and ultimately just provide some education and information to customers about our overall system, but it also provides some guidance to us so that we can make decisions about where to establish reforestation projects around the world. Part of our mission is to do so where there's been significant deforestation, so we can help not only rebuild the environment but also make a significant social impact as well, because we're creating a number of jobs on the ground at these projects to help build and scale the forests that we're planting. To put a cap on the concept, as everybody knows, there's trees are cut down every day and they're replanted every day for a number of reasons, not just for paper products but forest-based products as a whole. As it relates to paper, customers do have a choice. The most common SKU that's purchased is virgin, non-certified, generic paper, typically from Office Depot or Staples. However, there's growth in the market where customers may want to pay a premium for recycled paper, and recycled paper typically comes in one of three categories: 10%, 30%, or 100% recycled. And with that, with each step, there's typically a higher premium on the paper. Likewise, it can sometimes present challenges in the printing process because it's a grainier, the paper is grainier than the virgin non-certified paper. Likewise, there's green label or eco-label options through FSC or SFI. What this means is there's traceability about where the wood came from, where it was sourced in order to manufacture the paper. And their promise is that you can ensure that the paper came from a well-managed, sustainable source, ultimately the forest that it was cut down. PrintReleaf sits next to them as an option, but at a much more affordable price. Each one of these options is typically in the range of 10 to 15% more above the virgin non-certified option. If you go to staples.com, a standard case of paper is about $45 US, and for, say, FSC paper, it's typically around $51 to $52. PrintReleaf, as you'll see when we get into the business side of this, is typically a 2 to 3% markup on the paper. However, when you factor it into the total cost of ownership for a managed print solution, it's actually less than 1%. So it's very affordable and digestible financially into the business model. Now, when a customer subscribes to PrintReleaf, what we're promising is that at minimum, they are achieving a neutral impact in terms of their environmental footprint. Now, at the same time, they still can purchase any one of these three options and subscribe to PrintReleaf. And if that's the case, their net impact is actually positive. And either way, whether it's neutral or positive, we're finding that that message resonates positively, not only with our partners, but downstream the end customer. So to take that and layer it into technology, what we've designed and created here is an ecosystem for us to measure paper consumption across a lot of different mediums. And we do that through integrations like we have with PrintAudit. So in the office print sector, obviously PrintAudit's DCA is talking to the firmware on the device. It's picking up a lot of information. We bring that into PrintReleaf, which is cloud-based, and then we process the information, and obviously the outcome is certified reforestation. And to take that just a step further, in the integration, we really limit it to those data points that matter in driving our solutions. So toner levels, service levels, model numbers, all of that information we leave on the floor. It's really not critical to driving the PrintReleaf process. So specifically, we pay attention to overall meter data, paper size, duplex images, and then obviously which customer that corresponds with. So to bring this to life, I've got a product demo ready. And what I'm going to do is first demonstrate the back end of PrintReleaf. So this is where a dealer would interface with PrintReleaf, and I'll walk you through how to manage customers, integrate them with PrintAudit, and then ultimately we'll flip over to the customer front end. You can get an idea of, if you were to subscribe a customer, what their user experience would look like. So starting on the back end, we've got a high-level dashboard that really just illustrates total number of pages measured and reforested month over month. So this would be an aggregate. So for example, if you had, in this case, 55 accounts on the system, this would be the total paper consumption and trees reforested for all 55 customers. And then we measure that monthly, annually, and then from the lifetime count from the day you plugged in. And then down below here, we've got a live activity feed. So as you add customers, as they accept invitations, as they onboard and invite additional users, pick reforestation projects, you've got a live pulse of all of the activity on the system as it occurs day in, day out. Now, if you want to add an account, it's a really straightforward process. Just to keep the meeting moving, I've got a demo up here for ABC Company. There's a lot of different settings here to configure them, starting with something simple like uploading their logo. But ultimately, if you want to connect them to PrintReleaf, you're going to want to do that through an integration. And so this is where you would opt into the Print Audit integration. And so I'm going to demonstrate how this works in practice. It's going to prompt you for the Print Audit customer ID. And so I've got a demo instance of Print Audit up over here. What you'll want to do is go to Administration and then Customers. Find the customer that you're looking to subscribe to PrintReleaf. And so let's just pretend that that's this one here. And when I land on this customer page, the customer ID is actually located up here in the URL of the browser. So 232.559. I can copy that, bring it back over to the PrintReleaf side, input it, and then save it off. Now once that's in place, it's going to give me a private key basically to connect to the Print Audit server and ensure collection for this specific customer. So if I go back over to the Print Audit side, this is a step that you only have to do once. If I go to Reporting and then to Data Exports, I'll then select Device Inventory, and then I'll follow the prompts to program this export of data to PrintReleaf. You'll see here, and some of this might look familiar if you've used this feature before, you've got options to select Managed, Unmanaged, or both. Most of our dealers that work with us typically opt into the Managed only. From a business perspective, what that means is they typically only want to subscribe customers to PrintReleaf on pages that they're billing. So if you're in a customer environment where there's a competitor there and they have got, say 50% of the environment, you've got 50%, you may only want to relief those pages that you're billing for. So let's pretend it's Managed only. We can name this PrintReleaf Managed Only report. And then it's going to ask me for how often we want to sync it. So this is step 4. I'll schedule this report for future delivery. It'll then prompt me for how we want to export it. And we're going to want to do that via web service. It looks like it's hanging a little bit. Sometimes there's a bandwidth issue when there's a lot of services competing on the webinar. Ultimately, to play this out, once this finishes running here, it'll ask me to input this URL and then username and password from the PrintReleaf side. So all you have to do, and again this is one step, and then it's set forevermore through the Print Audit integration, is copy these 3 links, paste them into the Print Audit side, and then you can generate the report. And because it's scheduled for daily delivery, typically we schedule that at midnight, so it's not interfering with the day-to-day management of your business. It'll just export the data only for those accounts that we need to sync with PrintReleaf. So once that's in place, that customer is then live on the system. Their page count data will sync or flow into PrintReleaf every night, and we will automatically reforest it every month. From there, there's a couple other things you can do to configure the customer on the front end. You can select or deselect those reforestation projects you want to subscribe them to. Ultimately, the customer can override that functionality. They have the final say. But once you've configured them, all you need to do is invite them. So we would send an email to, say, Sally Smith at ABC Company. They'll receive an email from PrintReleaf with a private link inside that says, welcome to PrintReleaf. It'll reference your dealer as sending the invitation. They'll click through the private link and open up their own end user portal. Now before I switch over to the front end, one other point of mention here, there's a lot of functionality, but I just want to highlight that we have a marketing resources section, so new dealers that are coming on board with us, they have all the tools here at their fingertips in terms of collateral, brochures, flyers, presentations, press releases, even something as simple as device labels that a lot of dealers place onto the devices next to their asset IDs to and just communicate and highlight the program downstream to those end users that are picking up their print jobs and copy jobs all day. Likewise, we've got artwork, videos, both marketing and training videos. Bottom line is it's turnkey in its ability to take it on board and take it to market with your sales team and ultimately with your customers. So let's pretend we just invited the customer. I'm now going to switch over to the front end. And here I've got a demo of what the end user experience looks like. So we try to capture all of this in a simple one-page dashboard with functionality behind it if they really want to get into the details. But at a high level, just like the back end, this customer is going to have their own dashboard that illustrates their paper consumption and then their equivalent forest impact month over month. So this is the data that's syncing with Print Audit each night and being collected automatically. And then from there, this is where they begin to participate in the process. So they select their reforestation projects. We require that they pick a minimum of one, but at the same time they can pick upwards of all of them. We have 6 active projects. I'll just give you a sense of how this works in terms of the workflow. 2 of them are currently at capacity and about to reopen in Ethiopia and Burkina Faso. Likewise, we're in the process of adding 3 more projects, 1 in the U.S., 1 in Europe, and 1 in India, and we'll continue to add more projects as our volume scales in parallel. Customers can quickly pick projects from the menu on the left. They could go a little bit deeper where each one of these reforestation projects has their own profile page where I can add it to my projects. And then what this means from a business perspective is at the end of each month, however many trees need to be planted to reforest this customer's consumption will be equally distributed to their active projects. So if they've got, let's say, 12 trees to plant at the end of June, then 3 trees will be planted into each one of these projects. And when that occurs, each one of those transactions is then captured in the form of a certificate and posted to their account. The customer gets notified, they can log in, view their certificates, and then perhaps more importantly, they can track them. So it'll obviously list the pertinent data in terms of number of trees relative to number of pages, but it'll also surface this verification timeline. This outlines the point of transaction when the trees are actually in the ground, and then an 8-year audit timeline as administered by our certifying body, which is SGS International. So, a common question from a customer is, well, how do I know the trees are planted? Well, they're audited by SGS, which is one of the leading measurement and verification companies in the world. They work with a lot of manufacturers and ISO certification, but they also have an entire division dedicated to sustainable forest certification. And the head of SGS North America for their forestry division actually was one of the co-authors on the PrintReleaf standard. So we're well aligned to ensure that there's integrity built into the audit process for not only our partners, but specifically for each customer and the trees that they're planting. And then lastly, there's marketing value here for the dealer where you can connect, or the customer can connect their PrintReleaf account to Twitter or to Facebook. And we're expecting sometime between now and the end of the year, LinkedIn and Instagram integrations as well. And what we mean by that is we will automate or allow customers to easily share to these different platforms on an ongoing basis so that they can promote their participation in the program, but at the same time look to tag the dealer that they work with. So when they post to Facebook or Twitter, it would say, we just reforested our paper footprint via ABC Dealer powered by PrintReleaf. So simple message, simple concept, but the idea is if you get 10, 20, 50, 100 customers connected, they're all then talking about you and their partnership with you as a dealer on an ongoing basis on the positive act of the program. Okay, I'm going to pull it back to the presentation. One point I want to emphasize here is we've got a public demo link. We make this available to literally anyone, but primarily for dealers and their sales teams who are out there talking to customers. If they can bring up this link and show a customer versus tell them about it, it really helps to bring the program to life rather than just handing out a brochure. In terms of just sales and marketing ideas, we talked about simple things like social media, device labels. Dealers will typically build out a PrintReleaf web page. They'll often tag us in their email signatures just as a conversation starter. And then often when they onboard with us, the first account that they will register or activate it is themselves. So they begin reliefing their own internal consumption. It just helps them to get comfortable with the product, the talk track, and then take that solution internally out externally to their customers and their prospects. Okay, so talk about the financial side of this. PrintReleaf, when we initially started, we were selling directly to dealers. We still make that option available, but we are very concrete with our pricing because we've now opened up distribution through a number of partners around the world, actually. And some of these partners go to market with our solution in creative ways that may be more attractive financially than working with us directly. But that said, I want to give a clear construct of how we do go to market, and that is on a cost per page basis. So similar to deal crafting in the industry today, where often a customer subscribes to a base commitment of pages or a base allowance, that's how PrintReleaf works as well. So we start at a minimum commitment of 1 million pages a month at $0.0025 per page. So in other words, it's $250, that's US, for 1 million pages. And so the dealer then has 1 million pages in hand where they can then distribute them to one or however many customers they'd like. It could be one big customer, it could be 20 smaller customers at 50,000 pages, each to get to that base allowance. And then once they go over it, it's the same rate, $0.0025 per page. Now, as their volume begins to grow on the system and they double to 2 million and then theoretically again to 4 million or more, the price begins to drop as well. So there's a 20% delta decreasing with each tier as their volume begins to grow on the system. Likewise, as they achieve each tier, the overage price adjusts as well, ultimately hits a floor at $0.0015 per page. Now included in that cost per page to the dealer and then by extension to the customer is literally everything we've demonstrated here today. So it includes the trees, the certification, the software as a service to the dealer and then by extension to the customer, the social media integrations, and then the whole automation through integration with PrintAudit. Now to take that a step further and talk about positioning, this is really just taken from best practices we've learned from talking to dealers that have been on our solution for a while. We've got close to 140 dealers now that are marketing our solution. More often than not, it's a go-forward approach. So if a dealer signs up, they've got 1 million pages in hand, typically the first thing they do is look at 2 pipelines. Their upcoming renewals and their upcoming proposals or proposals that are pending. And they'll take that click rate of, say, $0.0025 down to $0.0015, depending on what tier they subscribe to, and they'll embed it into their cost basis. So that will include, obviously, toner, service in terms of parts and labor. It may include, whatever their cost is for the PrintAudit monitoring solution, and then PrintReleaf. And then they will add their standard markup. So that may be 30, 40 points, but effectively then they're profiting 30 to 40 points on that cost basis, which would include our solution. At the same time, they're keeping it simple for the customer. It's not a buying decision on something that's effectively nominal in the whole total cost of ownership, and it makes it easy for them to just opt into the program. At the same time, here and there, you might have strategic accounts or major accounts where there's an upsell opportunity, and yet they might have 2, 3, or 4 years left on their contract. We've seen it where PrintReleaf has been invested into the relationship as a retention strategy. But again, I would just promote that best practices has been a go-forward approach where dealers who have been on our solution for a year, up to 2 years, you see their adoption grow month over month, quarter over quarter. In theory, as their entire contract portfolio turns over, say, a 4 to 5 year window, their adoption could grow from 0 to 100%, and you've got a nice profit center there with PrintReleaf, which is obviously tied to how many pages you're managing as a dealership. All right, so that's PrintReleaf as a whole. I'm going to open it back up with James, and we can take any questions that the audience might have. I believe we want those entered into the question section of the control panel, and we can take them as we go.
And I think, Angie, you have some questions, do you not?
We sure do. The first question is, how many trees has PrintReleaf planted since they began?
I think we're around 120,000. I'd have to check our dashboard.
Okay, and do you have a projection of how many you want to plant, or is...
I've never heard asked that. As many as possible. There's obviously a market cap on paper consumption in the industry, but yeah, we want to go as far as we can.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jordan. Next question is, the print audit seat-based billing, is this available through any distributor?
Yes, the seat-based billing is available through Clover Imaging Group and through us directly at the moment.
Okay, thank you, James. Next question is, I don't understand how a customer can spend less money and I make more. Can you explain that again?
Okay, so when you're on a cost per page program, you're essentially beg your pardon, let me start that again. When you're on a cost per seat program, what you want to be able to do is, because you're charging that customer a set amount each month based on the number of people, any time that you can have them print less, you are going to improve your profit margins, because obviously your costs are less to support that customer. However, their cost doesn't go down. Where you're making more money is by having a larger profit margin on the services that you're providing, such as the software that you're putting in, such as the rules-based printing, the secure release, follow me print, all that. Because that profit margin, because again, you're on a subscription, that you're not having to, with a competitive product for rules-based printing, for example, you're going to buy that from them, right, when somebody wants it, and you're going to get a 30% profit margin on that, right? What happens then is the customer then owns that software, right? You've made your margin. At that point, that competitor of ours owns that software. That relationship. So they could possibly cut you out of that relationship. Under subscription plan, what you're doing is you're actually just letting the customer use it for a monthly fee. The more you place, the lower your cost, because lower your cost on a unit basis, because you're always paying that $2,500 a month. That's not going up. So you're increasing your profit margins every time. If the customer leaves you, you turn off the software. Hopefully that clarifies that a little bit.
Thanks, James. Our next question is, as a dealer of PrintReleaf, can we run summary reports for all of our customers' reforestation successes?
Yes. In the dealer portal, there's a lot of functionality that we didn't get into, but there's reporting available, just as you described. So it's an effective way to incorporate it into an account review as well. If you've got a customer on the program, that's all available through the back end.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. Next question is, where can I get samples of SBB contracts?
All you need to do is contact me at, as you see on the screen there, jhills@printaudit.com, and I will certainly put you, give you all the information you need. It'll be me or one of my team that reaches out and makes sure you have it.
Okay. What countries is PrintReleaf available in?
We are currently in Mexico, Dominican Republic, Brazil, Ethiopia, Madagascar, Burkina Faso, and we are in the certification process for a project in the U.S., hopefully one in Ireland, and then we have India coming on very soon.
Okay.
So, common question about the U.S., and we are working on it as we speak.
Okay, yeah, a question just came in for that, so that answered that. Another question is, as a dealer, can I sell PrintReleaf as an optional, an additional cost per page, or are most just including it in their standard cost per page offering?
So the answer to that is, well, both questions is yes. More often than not, dealers are just including it in their proposals and renewals. But there is occasionally dealers that are out there upselling it. It's just not as common.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, James. That's all the questions that we have for now.
Excellent. From me, thank you very much for your attention, and if there are any other questions, we're happy to go through and expand upon the concepts that we've presented today, and I'm pretty sure that's the same for Jordan, right?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for including me, James, and as James mentioned, if there's any questions specific to our solution, you can reach us through our website or the email you see posted on the screen, and we're happy to connect with you.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.